The flickering holographic projection of Grand Praetor Xylos seemed to fill Elias Vance's small, cluttered living room. His voice, modulated into standard galactic, boomed with self-importance. And so, the Galactic Council, in its infinite wisdom and boundless generosity, grants humanity continued autonomy, a true testament to our magnanimity after the recent unpleasantness. Furthermore, to aid in the post-conflict recovery and ensure galactic stability, certain atmospheric resources from your home world, Earth, will be made available for supervised, controlled harvesting. This will benefit all, removing excess bio-aerosols and ensuring a healthier atmosphere for Earth and the Council's needs. A new era of peace begins. Elias felt the words like tiny, sharp stones being pressed into his chest. He stood up, knocking over a stack of old star charts. His coffee, long forgotten, was cold on the table. The words excess bio-aerosols echoed in his mind. He knew exactly what they meant by that. He knew what they were taking. It was not excess. It was everything. A low growl rumbled in his throat. It was not a new era of peace. It was an insult carved into the very air his ancestors breathed. He felt a familiar, cold fury settle deep in his bones. The Council had won the war, or so they thought. They had dictated terms, but they had forgotten one thing. They forgot that peace, real peace, was built on respect. They had taken what was not theirs. They had spat on Earth's heart. Elias walked to his workbench, his steps heavy. He picked up a worn, leather-bound journal. Its pages were filled with his late wife's meticulous notes on planetary ecology. He traced a faded drawing of a tiny, complex atmospheric particle. "They think they're cleaning up," he mumbled, his voice rough. "They think they're helping." A grim smile touched his lips, devoid of humor. "They are about to find out what happens when you try to clean a lion's teeth with your bare hands." Elias called Dr. Aris Thorne. Her voice, bright and eager, answered almost immediately. "Elias, what is it? You sound like you just heard the last piece of pie was eaten." Elias snorted. "Worse, Aris, much worse. They're taking the air. Literally. The Council's final treaty clause, they are harvesting Earth's atmospheric bio-aerosols, our aerosols, the ones vital for planetary regeneration. They called them excess waste." Aris was silent for a moment. Her usual cheerful tone vanished. They what? But that's like taking the oxygen out of their own lungs, just slower. It'll throw off the entire ecosystem. It'll strangle the planet eventually. Elias nodded to himself, though she couldn't see him. Exactly, and they don't even know it. They just see a raw material. They don't understand the balance. They don't understand Earth. He paused, running a hand over the journal. "But we do, and we are going to show them. We are going to make them understand, one way or another." Aris's voice was firm now, a scientific determination hardening its edges. "What do you have in mind, Elias? Because if it involves blowing up their harvesting stations, I am ethically against it. But if it involves scientific countermeasures..." Elias let out a short, dry laugh. "No explosions, Aris. Nothing so crude. Remember those modified atmospheric processors your team was developing? The ones that could separate specific particulate matter at a molecular level. And what about that microcolony of bioluminescent, airborne fungi you were studying? The ones that thrived on specific atmospheric compositions?" Aris gasped softly. "Elias, you're not thinking. We could modify the fungal spores. Create a variant that targets specific atmospheric properties, but only within alien life support systems. It wouldn't harm humans. It would be designed to only interact with the atmospheric filters and pressure regulators commonly used by Council species. It would clog their systems, slowly degrade their equipment, cause minor irritations." Elias finished her sentence. "And make them understand that Earth's air is not a resource to be plundered. It's a living part of us. It's our defense. And it's our wrath. The next few weeks were a blur of intense, secret work. Aris set up a makeshift lab in a remote, abandoned research station deep in the Amazonian rainforest. The humid air, thick with the scent of damp earth and exotic flowers, was perfect cover. Elias helped her gather samples, scout for locations, and run security. He felt a spark of purpose he hadn't felt since the war ended. The war had taken his wife, a brilliant xenobotanist, caught in a crossfire during a council pacification mission. Her research, his journal, became his driving force. Aris, a young woman barely out of her 20s, moved with a surprising blend of precision and nervous energy. She hummed to herself as she worked, a strange, off-key tune that Elias found oddly calming. "You know, Elias," she said one afternoon, peering into a microscope, "this is the kind of project my dad would have called going green with extreme prejudice. He was a botanist, too. Loved plants more than people sometimes. Said they never complained when you talked to them." Elias grunted in amusement. "Sounds like a wise man. My old drill sergeant used to say, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And if you want it done with style, use duct tape and a very big wrench." "We're more elegant than duct tape here, Aris." Aris laughed, a genuine, joyful sound. "Oh, we're definitely more elegant. We're going to use tiny, invisible saboteurs, like a ghost in the machine, but a biological ghost." She showed him a Petri dish. Inside, a shimmering, almost invisible haze of particulate matter swirled. "These are our babies, Elias. Modified fungal spores. We've programmed them genetically to be inert in Earth-normal atmosphere, but introduce them to the specific atmospheric compounds found in typical council life support systems, and they activate. They begin to multiply slowly. They're designed to stick to the submicron filters, causing them to clog. Over time, air pressure will drop, filtration will fail, and fine particulates will start circulating. They'll cause mild respiratory irritation, eye discomfort, maybe even a little dizziness. Nothing lethal, nothing that can be traced back directly, just discomfort, persistent, pervasive discomfort." Elias peered at the dish. "So it's like giving them a really bad allergy indefinitely, an allergic reaction to our planet's very essence. Elegant indeed, Aris, very elegant." He felt a flicker of hope. This wasn't about violence. It was about persistence. It was about showing them the quiet power of Earth itself. Grand Praetor Xylos, a being of the Cathar hegemony, prided himself on his logical mind and his species' meticulous order. His scales, usually a pristine sapphire blue, were slightly dulled. He ran a clawed hand over his data slate, looking at the energy consumption readouts for the atmospheric harvesting units orbiting Earth. "The efficiency metrics are down by 0.07% this cycle, Senator Lyra. It is suboptimal. Our projections showed a stable harvest." Senator Lyra, a slender, graceful Vijan with multiple shimmering, bioluminescent tendrils that shifted color with her mood, tilted her head. Her tendrils glowed a soft, questioning green. "Praetor, perhaps it is merely atmospheric variability. Earth's climate cycles are known to be turbulent. The humans themselves are a turbulent species." Xylos scoffed, a dry, rattling sound. "Turbulence is inefficiency. These bio-aerosols, as the humans call them, are a raw resource. They are ambient. They should be consistently available. My engineers report minor clogs in the microfilters. A nuisance, but nothing that warrants concern. We will simply increase maintenance cycles." He dismissed it with a wave of his hand. Lyra, however, felt a prickle of unease. She had observed the humans during the peace negotiations. They were emotionally volatile, yes, but also deeply resilient. Their passion for their home world was unlike anything she had encountered in the galaxy. They spoke of Gaia and Mother Earth with an almost religious fervor. To simply take from it, regardless of the treaty, felt short-sighted. She remembered one human delegate, a scientist, quietly remarking, "You take from the well, but you forget the water has a spirit." She had dismissed it as human mysticism then. Now she wondered. Back on Earth, Elias and Aris prepared for deployment. They used small, automated drones disguised as atmospheric research probes to deploy the modified spores. Their first target, the outer perimeter of the Council's primary atmospheric processing station in orbit. "It's a slow burn, Elias," Aris explained, calibrating a drone's launch sequence. "These spores are designed to disperse widely, but only activate when they encounter the right environmental triggers. It will take time for them to build up enough concentration to cause noticeable effects within the station's sealed environments. Weeks, maybe months." Elias nodded. "Good. Patience is a virtue, Aris, especially when you're trying to trip up giants. Besides, a slow burn means they won't immediately know what hit them. They'll dismiss it as equipment failure, human inefficiency, cosmic dust, anything but the truth." He paused, adjusting the drone's miniature solar collector. "Reminds me of my grandpappy's old tractor. He swore it ran on pure stubbornness and a little bit of magic, and every spring it would just stop, not break down, just refuse to work, and he'd fuss with it and it would start again just to prove a point." Aris chuckled. "Sounds like Earth itself. Stubborn and a little bit magical. Let's hope our little fungal friends inherited that trait." They watched as the first drone launched, a silent whisper into the upper atmosphere, carrying its invisible payload of tiny, persistent agents of change. Weeks turned into months. The initial hiccups on the Council's atmospheric processing stations grew more frequent. Filter replacements, once scheduled quarterly, became monthly, then bi-weekly. Maintenance crews complained of an unusual, sticky residue that coated the inner workings of air purifiers. Reports of crew members experiencing mild but persistent coughs, watery eyes, and unexplained lethargy began to circulate through the Council fleet. On the flagship Indomitable will Grand Praetor Xylos was growing increasingly frustrated. "This is unacceptable," he roared, slamming a clawed hand on his command console. The holographic display showed a red alert flashing over one of the processing stations. "Another complete shutdown, due to atmospheric contamination. What is this contamination? Our sensors detect nothing out of the ordinary." His chief engineer, a stout Cathar named Vorlak, fidgeted nervously. "Praetor, we have run every diagnostic. The air composition is within acceptable parameters. Yet the filters clog at an alarming rate. It is as if the very air itself is trying to defeat our systems. We found microscopic organic particulate matter, but it disintegrates when analyzed. We cannot identify it." Lyra, present in the briefing, observed Xylos's mounting irritation. Her tendrils pulsed a soft, anxious blue. "Praetor, perhaps a more thorough investigation is warranted. The humans are an adaptable species. Could this be an unforeseen consequence of the harvesting? A natural resistance from Earth itself?" Xylos snorted, his scales flaring slightly. "Nonsense, Senator. Earth is a pre-industrial world, barely capable of space flight on its own. Their technology is primitive. This is merely a confluence of equipment malfunctions, nothing more. We will send in an elite maintenance team. They will resolve this." But a seed of doubt had been planted in Lyra's mind. Meanwhile, Elias and Aris were refining their methods. Aris discovered that adding specific trace elements to the nutrient solution for the fungal spores could alter their activation time and increase their stickiness. "It's like making them super glue, but for filters," she explained, her face smudged with nutrient paste. We can now target specific ship types based on their known atmospheric processing units. This means we can prioritize the Council's military vessels, make their barracks feel like an old dusty attic with a bad ventilation system. Elias watched her work, a deep satisfaction spreading through him. So, we're not just giving them a cough. We're giving them a persistent, irritating cough that follows them everywhere. That's true poetry, Aris. He remembered how the Council had declared Earth a resource hub in their post-war restructuring, a term that had chafed at him. They saw a planet, not a home. They saw resources, not life. This was their consequence. He thought of his wife, her face lit with passion as she talked about the interconnectedness of all life. She would have loved this. She would have called it poetic justice delivered by biological mail. The wrath began to spread beyond the orbital stations. Council transport ships ferrying supplies, patrol cruisers, and even diplomatic vessels started experiencing similar issues. On the Indomitable will Xylos's frustration reached a boiling point. Crew members, usually disciplined and stoic, were becoming irritable. Their sleep cycles were disrupted by the constant, low hum of straining air purifiers and the faint, persistent smell of ozone mixed with something vaguely earthy. Minor health issues previously ignored were now leading to absenteeism. Lyra noticed the tension. The Cathar, a species that thrived on order, were visibly agitated by the subtle chaos. She saw officers snapping at subordinates, minor disputes escalating. It wasn't outright mutiny, but it was a fraying of nerves. She requested permission to visit one of the affected transport ships, the Vanguard's Resolve under the guise of diplomatic outreach. Xylos, eager to show that everything was under control, reluctantly agreed. On board the Vanguard's Resolve the air felt thick, even though sensors reported optimal oxygen levels. Lyra's tendrils flickered erratically, reflecting her discomfort. She saw a Cathar engineer wiping a thin film of what looked like dark dust from a console. "Senator," the engineer grumbled, his voice hoarse, "these filters are failing every 3 cycles, and no one can tell us why. Our medical bay is full of beings with respiratory issues. It's like living in a dust storm. This ship is becoming uninhabitable." Lyra noticed small, almost imperceptible patches of what looked like fine, greenish-brown moss growing in the ventilation grates. She touched one carefully. It felt slightly damp. Her tendrils pulsed a vibrant, curious green. "Interesting," she murmured. "Could I request a sample of this dust?" The engineer, too tired to argue, gave her a small, sealed container. As she left the ship, Lyra knew this was no equipment malfunction. This was something deliberate, something organic, something earthly. Back on Earth, Aris was tracking the spread of their spores. A complex holographic map displayed the Council fleet's movements, with red markers appearing over ships where they detected the telltale atmospheric signature of their fungal agents. "It's working, Elias," she exclaimed, her eyes gleaming. "Their main supply lines are showing heavy contamination, even some of their command vessels. They're going to have to start diverting resources just to keep their air breathable. This is going to slow them down, cost them a fortune, and frustrate them to no end." Elias leaned back in his chair, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. "Like a slow-drip water torture, Aris. Not painful enough to warrant retaliation, but irritating enough to drive them absolutely mad. My granddad always said, 'You can shear a sheep many times, but you can only skin him once.' We're just giving them a very bad haircut, over and over." He thought about the Council's arrogant declaration of peace. They had tried to skin humanity, take its very essence. Now humanity was shearing them one painful, irritating strand at a time. This was not war. This was environmental justice. Lyra took the sample to a trusted, independent xenobiologist, a reclusive Xylosian named Dr. F. Lore. F. Lore, known for his eccentric brilliance, worked in a private lab filled with exotic flora and fauna. He peered at the sample under an advanced microscope. His optical sensors widened. "Fascinating," he hissed, a sound of deep interest. "These are a highly modified form of fungal spores, genetically altered. They are designed to adhere specifically to the micropores of Cathar standard atmospheric filters, and they thrive on the trace elements present in common council life support systems. They're harmless to most oxygen breathers, yet they cause a slow, systematic breakdown of environmental controls for species adapted to controlled atmospheric conditions. It's not a weapon, Senator. It's an environmental irritant, a biological nuisance of unprecedented scale, and its genetic markers, they point directly to Earth, specifically to unique bio-aerosols found only in Earth's atmosphere." Lyra's tendrils flushed a deep, troubled indigo. "So the humans, they are retaliating, not with ships but with spores." F. Lore nodded slowly. "Precisely. They are using their very planet against us. They are not attacking our fleets directly. They are attacking our infrastructure, our comfort, our very ability to breathe easy in a controlled environment. It is ingenious and terrifying. They have weaponized their ecosystem." The revelation hit Lyra hard. She understood the humans' motivations now. The Council had dismissed Earth's atmospheric bioaerosols as excess waste, a convenient resource. But for humans, these were part of their world's lifeblood. It was an insult of cosmic proportions. She returned to the asterisk indomitable will asterisk, her mind racing. She had to present this to Xylos. He would be furious, of course. He would call it an act of war. But Lyra knew better. This was a scream of defiance. This was Earth saying, "You took too much, and now you pay." Xylos received Lyra's report with a guttural growl that reverberated through the command deck. "Biological warfare, an act of aggression. The humans have violated the peace treaty." His scales turned a furious, mottled crimson. Lyra stood her ground. "Praetor, with respect, it is not an act of war in the conventional sense. There are no casualties, only widespread discomfort and logistical nightmare. And the treaty itself states nothing about bioweaponry, only about military aggression. This is unprecedented. Furthermore, Dr. F. Lore's analysis confirms these spores are derivatives of Earth's own bioaerosols, the very ones we are harvesting. It is a reaction, a direct, biological countermeasure to our presence and our exploitation." Xylos slammed his fist down. "They will be punished. We will quarantine Earth. We will intensify the harvest." Lyra shook her head. "Praetor, that will only exacerbate the situation. If they can weaponize their atmospheric particles, what else can they do? What other excesses might Earth possess? We misjudged them. We saw them as primitive, emotional. We failed to understand their deep, almost spiritual connection to their home world. This is not about technology, Praetor. It is about an entire species defending its essence. If we escalate, they will find another way. They always do. They are like a weed that grows through concrete, persistent, unpredictable." Her words resonated with an uncomfortable truth for some of the other council members present, who were already suffering from mild respiratory issues themselves. A Vijan medical officer had recently reported a surge in allergic reactions among the crew. The Cathar were not known for their subtlety, but Lyra's logical, if alarming, analysis cut through Xylos's rage. He paced, his heavy footsteps echoing. "So, what do you propose, Senator? That we simply endure this biological nuisance? That we allow them to dictate terms with their glorified pollen?" Lyra replied calmly, We must renegotiate Preter, not from a position of strength but from a position of understanding. We must offer to cease the atmospheric harvesting. We must acknowledge the ecological impact, and we must offer reparations. Perhaps then this wrath, as they seem to have coined it on their internal communications, will cease. Xylos scoffed, but the fire had left his eyes. He saw the mounting logistical chaos. He saw the rising cost of maintenance and medical care. He saw the subtle but undeniable decline in his fleet's readiness. He had underestimated humanity, and that was an error he could not afford to repeat. On Earth, Elias and Aris watched the news feeds. Reports of the Council's internal struggles, the unexplained illnesses, the mounting frustration. Aris was humming a cheerful tune. "It's working, Elias. They're talking about unforeseen ecological consequences and reviewing treaty clauses. They're even mentioning human exceptionalism in a new context, not as a weakness, but as an unpredictable factor." Elias allowed himself a rare, genuine smile. "Like teaching a dog to fetch, Aris. You gotta make them want to fetch the stick on their own, or, in this case, drop it. Hard." He picked up his wife's journal again, flipping to a page with a complex equation for atmospheric particulate dispersal. He felt her presence, a quiet satisfaction. This wasn't just about winning a fight. It was about honoring a legacy. A few weeks later, the Galactic Council sent an unprecedented diplomatic mission to Earth. Senator Lyra led the delegation. She stood before the Human Planetary Council, a gathering of scientists, environmentalists, and former military leaders, including Elias and Aris. The air in the chamber felt thick with unspoken tension, but also a fragile sense of hope. Lyra's tendrils pulsed a respectful, neutral green. "Humanity," she began, her voice modulated to a low, soothing tone. "The Galactic Council wishes to express its profound misjudgment. The clause regarding the atmospheric bio-aerosols of Earth was made in ignorance. We failed to comprehend the intricate balance of your ecosystem, and indeed, your deep connection to it. We apologize for our oversight and the subsequent impact our harvesting has had. We propose a full cessation of all atmospheric harvesting operations around Earth. Furthermore, we offer extensive ecological aid and technological support for any restoration efforts you deem necessary. We wish to establish a new era of peace, one built on genuine understanding and respect for your unique place in the galaxy." Elias watched her, his expression unreadable. He saw a glimmer of sincerity in her eyes. He thought of the weary faces of the council crew on the holographic reports, the straining air purifiers. He thought of the quiet strength of Earth and the cunning of humanity. Aris, standing beside him, nudged him subtly. He nodded, a barely perceptible movement. "Senator Lyra," Elias said, his voice calm, "the proposal is noted. Humanity appreciates the Council's newfound clarity. However, the path to true peace requires more than just stopping what was wrong. It requires acknowledgement, and a guarantee that such misjudgments will not happen again. And for that, we need to talk about a new clause, one that defines the sanctity of a species' homeworld, its natural environment, and its right to exist unmolested, beyond any treaty's initial scope." Lyra's tendrils shifted to a brighter green. "We are prepared to discuss such a clause, Elias Vance. We have learned that sometimes the most dangerous weapons are not found in shipyards, but in the very air one breathes." The negotiations lasted for months, slow and painstaking. Elias, now a key human representative, found himself spending long hours with Lyra. They discussed not just the treaty, but philosophy, biology, and the nature of intelligence. He told her stories of Earth, of its resilience, its beauty, its